Good evening, everybody. I'm so excited to be virtually welcoming a brother, Ryan. I'm so grateful for his time and energy. I've had some time away, and this is going to be uploaded to my YouTube channel. And I'm excited to interview Ryan. Ryan, I met through Instagram, but also I was very grateful to have him hold energy space for the Ripple Effect just recently. So, welcome, Ryan, virtually.
Thank you for having me, man. And like you said, I'm very grateful to meet you too, because the first time I met you face to face was at the Ripple Effect. And I think the way we just shared energy in that day, shared space, but also the conversations we had too was very healthy, opening, and also progressive too. So I was very grateful to meet you, brother. And I'm keen to see what the future holds for both of us.
Yes, definitely. And what I love about the connection and with social media, it can be so interesting, right? The people that show up and post content and do all the things. But when you meet them in person, it's just like that congruency and integrity. It's like it's all about that community, and that's what I saw in you is community over competition. And when
Mm.
you've got such a big heart of yours and your vision and where you're heading, it's like there's no competition. It's just community. So I love.
That's the thing, bro. Because like the thing with competition versus community, with competition, less people are going to benefit from it. When I say less people, I don't mean that people providing the service. I mean the people benefiting from the support and help. But when you have a community of people doing the same thing, like services or people or mentors uplifting each other to promote each other's stuff to put out to the world, more people are going to get support and grow and evolve from that because it's just more awareness and more resources out there. And that's why community over competition is a big part for me.
Mm, yeah, I love that. So people that don't know you, who is Ryan and what do you do?
Oh, Ryan is from, it doesn't sound like it, but I'm from Liverpool, England. I moved here when I was about 8, 9 years old. Lived in Queensland since. I now work in mental health. I worked in the mental health space for about 4 to 5 years. Started off working with severe mental health, sorry, predominantly schizophrenia and depression, anxiety, and the list goes on. But now I do youth work as well. I have my brand mental health experience where I provide a virtual online version of supports, coaching, mentoring, courses, seminars, masterclasses. And I've also got my own podcast called One Talk Podcast. So the way I just say it, as a long story short, is I just I specialize in mental health and mindset. So because
Mm,
I've been in a lot of different areas. I'm currently in quite a few different areas, but overall, I'm big and passionate on mental health and mindset.
I love that. And I can hear that. And in relation to having so much, and I do apologize, I didn't talk about that one thing. I was just like, Ryan has got a podcast, and then I knew that you'd talk about what you do. So thank you for sharing that, brother. And that's just about life, right? It's just it's recorded, it's live, it's genuine, and just until we get to the point, it's just like men need men just to be real, right? And I
I
think
love that.
it's I think and this is leading to the next question as well, but I'm curious, how do you deal or experience with things that go wrong in your day-to-day life? Because mental health is health, right?
Yeah.
And having all those things that you just shared, like that's a lot to carry, and you're just
Yeah.
recently engaged and you've got all these other things going on. What's something that you could tell the viewers that um yeah, what helps you get into that experience of like, hey, this is what's going on for me, and how do you process and integrate?
I would say personally, as well as giving the advice, I would say it's all about perspective because
Mm,
overall, emotions are feedback. So every time we feel an emotion, it's a feedback for something that we've either been doing good, bad, positively, negatively. Like it can be whatever, but every emotion, happy, sad, depression, anxiety, ecstatic, all these emotions we feel are feedback. So when you do feel negative emotions or moments where you're down or you feel run out or burnt out or stressed, this is feedback from what you've been doing. And it can rather be physically or what you've been consuming, auditory, or even just a sensory overload, like with what you've been touching and doing. So everything relates back to feedback. And it's just having that perspective on auditing your life. So I do a thing once a week where I audit my week. And the reason I do this because it keeps me on track and it helps me avoid things like burnout. It helps me understand why I felt stressed in this moment and helps me realize why I felt angry in this moment. So I'm constantly auditing my life once a week every Sunday. And I have that check on myself. So every time, if you're firstly like experiencing, like, let's just say anxiety and depression as an example, just look at this as feedback and then try and bring that backwards to wonder why you got to that state.
Mm, I love that perspective, and emotion is feedback. That's, we
Mm,
talk about, you know, Tony Robbins, all the cliches, but it's true, right? Energy is motion, and the body keeps the score.
mm.
Um, if we are not dealing. So just touch base every Sunday. What do you do again?
So every Sunday I audit my life. So what that looks like is every Sunday I sit down, pen and paper, me in the room, and I write down, or over the week I'll break it down in more depth for the listeners. But over the week I'll write down a negative emotion I feel, just so I don't forget on the Sunday, a good emotion I feel, and an ideas that I had, any thoughts that I had, whether they're good or bad. I collect them all on Sunday and I dissect it and audit it. And the reason I do this is so I can use all that feedback to then implement the more of the good stuff that made me feel good that week, but then
Mm,
also try and break down the things that made me feel bad and then try and work through those specific things. Because even though we do all this work on ourselves, we can still have moments where we feel a new emotion that we've never felt before. Like, I've never been angry at this before in my life. Why am I suddenly angry at this? And it's like, what irritation built up in me to feel this reaction to that emotional feedback? So the reason for the audit every Sunday is for that purpose, to be able to break down my mental health and my mindset and just try and understand and how I can use that to best equip myself for the next week. Because I look at it by week. I don't look at it as a big overall, I just always want to be happy. It's more like, okay, how can I implement this on Sunday, this audit, and then go into next week and implement all the things that make me feel good and start winning out all the things that make me feel bad or negative.
mm. No, that's amazing. Having actually time to sit in stillness and give you that that feedback. Um,
Yeah, yeah, 100%, man. Because like I had this realization once, and I was sitting there. I can't remember where I was specifically, but I remember sitting there and I was thinking, how often do we sit with our own thoughts, without a phone, without people around us, without even just dogs and pets around us, without working, without anything at all, just sitting with our own thoughts. The only time we generally do it is when we're going to sleep, and
mm,
we run while our thoughts are racing when we're trying to go to sleep. It's because we haven't
wow.
processed anything all day. So all our
Yeah,
thoughts are now just coming at us 100 miles per hour. Like, look, we're all here now. Jam is in. Processes. So yeah, I think that's a very important thing to do, is be able to have moments where you do process your thoughts. And that's why I do that thing every Sunday, because it gives me a time block where I'm actually doing that and implementing it.
that's amazing. Like, yeah, that's definitely going to add value to me as well, and add value to viewers. That's wonderful. I actually haven't heard from that, so that's always forever student, right? So, um, in relation to that, just to add on a little bit, we've talked. You worked with youth and mental health and high severe mental health conditions, and
Yeah.
then you've got your coaching business. How do you balance, just in maybe a few sentences, or just maybe some self-care stuff in relation to being aware of your own mental health and when you don't feel like it? I love how transparent you are in your stories when, you know,
Mhm.
you don't feel like going to the gym. And
Yeah.
not, 9 times out of 10, there's a saying, it's like, if I went to the gym every time I went, I felt like it, I'd be severely overweight.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you can touch base on, how do you balance your mental health with your career, with your 9 to 5 plus all the other things you currently run?
I think, speaking more specifically in working in the mental health field, I think it's important to be able to learn the skill of detaching emotions from situations, detaching emotions to anything in general. So, like if something negative arises at work that triggers you, you got to be able to detach from that. Otherwise, you're going to take that baggage home. You're going to be holding that for a long time, and you're going to take on other people's emotions. So, a big thing for me, I was quite fortunate because when I started in the mental health space, I had a mentor, like he was my team leader at this organization. And he was telling me about don't take emotional baggage home. So, I think that's the first thing. And I think this can actually go to anyone that's not even in the mental health space, like even in construction, even in hospitality, retail. Like, things that happen to work, you got to find ways to process that, and then also remember that it's all emotional feedback. So by doing this, it's also important to observe your thoughts. And the reason I say this is because when we observe our thoughts, we then learning detaching our thoughts and emotions from each other. And by doing this, it gives me a really big part of my life to be able to keep that balance in my life. Because if I'm not so emotionally attached to everything that I do, I'm more, because you can't be emotionally attached and think strategically at the same time. It's quite hard to do both. So I try to put myself more in that strategic mindset when in terms of getting other people outcomes, and then I go back to the um, like the full processing side of it when it comes to my personal self, and that's when I get deep into the work on myself. So I think
Mm.
the balance with work and self is when you're doing your work, try to be more in your strategic mindset, which is your masculine, and then
Mm.
when you then bring your feminine back into yourself when you have your time to actually work through your emotions and thoughts and stuff like that.
I love that. And something that I always come to the forefront is anyone that's experienced my GTVs and things, it's like I feel something, I'm going to say it. It's like I'm curious to know like how much work have you done on yourself, and what was the point where you're like, I need some support. Like you said, you had your team leader and you had that support, but like in relation to, you're a figure in the space of coaching now, and people are reaching out to you to run events and things. So like, what's that pivotal moment in your age and that event was like, I actually need to start this for me?
Yeah. Do you mean like a time in my life where I thought I need support in general or for my business and career?
I would say start with um, like just your life in general,
Yeah. So
and
the
it
first,
led.
yeah. Yeah, sweet. Sorry, bro. So the first time in my life, specifically like on a personal level, would be when I realized I needed to quit drugs because I was addicted to drugs from age 11 till 18. So I got sober when I was 18.
Mm.
And at that moment, probably from the age of 17, that's when I realized I need support and I need to try and figure out ways to overcome temptations and to build discipline and to overcome anxiety and depression. And I was like, I need support because everything I was doing at the time was not helping. It was just put me on a path of more destruction, and just burning more bridges. So I believe it was that time when I was 17 when I first had the idea I want to quit drugs. That's when that thought process started coming to my mind where it was like, look, we're going to need support. We're going to have to reach out. You're going to have to drop your ego because the ego is the big thing, especially in us, especially in me at that time as well, man. Like, ego was the killer of me. And there was the reason why I was planning suicide and the reason why I was abusing myself with drugs and things like that. And then the day I dropped my ego and decided, like, look, I just need help, that was the day my life changed.
Thank you for sharing that. I know we talked about it before, and I knew that would bring it in. And I love how you wrote a book as well, the space of like the decision, right? And
Mm,
11 is quite a young age.
yeah.
And to have that, like, where when you said that decision, like I'm ready to stop this. Like, what was the environment around family and friends? Was there much support around? Because I haven't experienced too much on that forefront with interviewing people around that space, but it's like, and hearing stories is different. Everyone's, healing's limited. It's like so different in space of
Mm.
mental health. There's addiction in all areas. So I'm curious to know what was the support around you that time when you said, "Hey, I need support. This is my time."
But this is going to be a shock. There was no support. So because the reason there was no support was because all my family's back in the UK. Besides my sister, she lives in Adelaide, and my mum, she's around this area. But at that time, there's a lot of things going on.
Yep.
But when I started to realize I need support, it made me more curious on how to actually get out of this mindset. That's what helped me. So I started getting support more virtually. So like on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and podcasts and all these type of things. That became my new environment because physically I was like, I got nowhere to go. I don't really know anyone on this other side of the realm of soberness and bettering themselves and personal development and such. So I just took a massive deep dive into Instagram, YouTube, and all this content online, especially music. Music was a big thing for me as well. Like
Mm.
hearing other people's stories, like especially there's a rapper named Cursor. And Cursor at the time, I
Yes.
was
Yeah.
going through drug
Love him.
addiction and he was in drug addiction as well. And then when he became sober, that motivated me to become sober. And all of this music he was releasing at that time just resonated with me so much and it kept that light within me to keep going. So I actually looked onto the online space for a new environment. And then once I did that, that then flourished into a physical environment because then I started meeting people online and then I created a mental health experience and that just blew up my world because I just started attracting so many like-minded people on this journey and that
Mm.
just changed my whole life.
It's beautiful. When did you start the mental health experience? Instagram.
June 2018, so about over 4 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was when I started too, I was completely shitting myself. Sorry for my French if I'm allowed to swear,
Yeah,
but
of course, everything's welcome.
yeah, I was absolutely shitting myself. Because at the time, like I was still facing, because when I was a drug addict from 11 to 18, there's so many emotions I suppressed. I didn't deal with any. So from 18 to about 20, I started to feel all these emotions I never felt before, like depression, anxiety, and anger was a big one too. But then when I started mental health experience, I'm like, I'm still trying to work for these things. How am I meant to help other people? And I was like, you know what? I just got to do it. I just got to put the awareness out there just in case someone else is struggling like me. And over time, it's just blossomed into what it is. So I'm very grateful that I just didn't give in to the fear of judgment of others.
Yeah, I'm grateful too.
Mm.
I know that people are going to hear that story, and it's something that people, you can have all the qualifications and you have all these things, but the people that, you know, the artists you're saying, and the YouTube and social media can be great, as we know. And there's a movement now. There's a huge movement around mental wellness and mental health, and now people are going to YouTube and going to podcasts. So the next question I had is, if someone that was totally fresh to experience, as you were saying before, suppressing their emotions, if they're struggling with anxiety, mental health, drug addiction, alcohol, could, like, what I'm facing, what I've faced in the past, and what I've experienced as well as men is a lot of shame around like porn and alcohol and drugs. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, with all that saying, what wisdom, I hate advice, guys, so I always say wisdom because I know Ryan's got lots of it. What wisdom would you provide someone that's experiencing mental health for the first time?
I would say, first of all, you got to trust yourself that you'll get through it. I think you got to trust yourself that time will do its thing as long as you implement the right things in the time that you're given. So first of all, accept that time is going to be a factor. Second, trust yourself. Third, seek support and find resources to implement. So in that time period where you're waiting for the transitional, the evolve time in your life, that you actually implement the things that will get you there. And I think a lot of people, even myself, were quite surprised like how quick that can actually happen. When
Mm.
I was when I was sitting in my bedroom shaking uncontrollably from anxiety because my best friend was coming over just to say hello to me, I was thinking, I'm never going to survive this. I'm never going to be able to not feel like this. And now it's only been 5 years since like that day happened. And like within 5 years, like
Wow.
so much has changed, man. And I think it's just, yeah, you got to trust in yourself. You got to accept that time's a factor. But then with the timing situation, you just got to implement the right things that will utilize the most out of the time you're waiting for.
Mm. Timing, what I got from that is, people go to psychologists for 2 sessions, right?
Mm.
And they're like, I'm done. Or they hire a coach for 6 months, or they don't integrate that into the work. It's just like, timing is like 5 years. You were having panic attacks and having people in your life, and now you're on podcasts and you're sharing all the, like, I always call it your message, and that's might land for you, but it's like all the stuff you've learned, you're literally uh, giving the wisdom now to other people. And it's like,
Mm.
you can look yourself in the mirror 5 years ago and like, I am, and I'm sure the clients are probably projection. So we talk about perception, projection, the world of my language, and what I say is like, everything is a vision, everything is a mirror of you. So if you're getting triggered, what Ryan's saying is just like, where else in your life are you getting triggered, or what are you not allowing to feel if you're getting triggered by that? So I
Mm.
love how you said time, because people are like, oh my God, I've been on this medication for 6 months, or I've done this 3 years of self development and I'm still angry. It's like, look, my favorite quote, and I want to mention this, is, if you think you're healed, or you're woke, or you're conscious, go
Mm.
live with your parents for 3 months.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, all those things will come. But I like rabbit holes, and I'm aware of my rabbit holes. So I'll get back to Ryan. So thank you for sharing those wisdom. And I'm sure that's going to impact a lot of people,
Mm.
because you could say a book or a coach, but like, literally, it's being aware of it, it's having the time, and it's just being okay with, it might take a little bit longer, and you might come back to, like a roller coaster. It's like
Yeah.
that healing.
And I'm very glad you touched that more specifically, because another thing is don't listen to doubters. Because at the time, like, especially people around me or people who are acquaintances of some sort, there's so much doubt, like you're always going to feel like this, you're always doing the wrong things. Like there's no belief within myself. And that transparently came within me. It was like, I don't believe in myself either. So you got to be careful with who you surround yourself around at the time as well. And also be able to detach from the negative information that you get. Like 5 years ago, when I was in my room shaking, my ex Mrs. Dad used to always say to me, "You'll never do anything in mental health." And this is when I was like trying to aspire into doing something in mental health. And then now to see over 5 years, you can literally do anything you put your mind to, no matter what anyone says to you.
Oh, so beautiful, man. So proud that you did that, and I'm sure the viewers will get that a lot. With I've had the questions in relation to when people like, do we have to have that teacher? Do we? And I'll obviously share tomorrow with my story in more depth. But it's like the more teachers say you're dumb, you're not good enough, the belief systems like you had no support when you're getting up drugs, you know, and you had your dad like this, your ex Mrs. Dad saying, "Oh, you won't do mental health." You're like, "Fuck, you are." Like this is that motivation. So
Yeah.
sometimes we look at role models as they're amazing, but would you think that these negative role models in your life made you who you are today?
Oh, 100%. You got to blame everyone for the good and the bad in life. You can't just blame anyone for the bad. So it's the good too. It's the both sides of life. I blame everything that's ever happened to me for the good cause, because it built me to the man I am today. Like when I reflect on my life, I don't regret that I was a drug addict for that long. I don't regret the things that I've done. Maybe there's some things I could have done differently, but I don't plot and try and sit on them. I just
Mm,
think, cool, how can I use this experience to show other people that have done those things to avoid those situations I got myself involved in? Because one of the most powerful things that we can have is the life lessons that we've acquired, that we can teach to other people. And the knowledge that we acquire on top of that is just additional information and feedback we can give to people. So
mm,
every single day we're growing and learning to be able to give even more back. So I'm very grateful for the life I've lived. And I think that's a powerful thing that we can use within us. Like no matter what you've done in life, use that as your superpower to be able to give back and support people in that same area or transition out of that area or whatever it may be.
mm. I love that. It's giving that permission piece to, you know, when people say life doesn't happen, is it life happen for you? It happens to you. Is that or the other way around? I'm
No,
getting
it
mixed
doesn't
up.
happen to you, it happens for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and like that stuff is so important. What you said is like it's this trauma, this pain, whatever you want to call it, is something that you've like, cool, this is my life. I would not want to not be part of that because that's part of Ryan. And Ryan can look back at that and go, wow, I'm so proud. And where you are now, it's like it's that whole piece. So Ryan is this, but also Ryan was this, and that's how clients, and this is how your career, this is how everyone in your life has manifested to you because you've played a role. And I think a lot of people
Mm.
try to be happy. That's just a state. No one can be happy all the time. It's just find wholeness in your
Yeah.
life. And that's what I'm experiencing through this epic chat.
Yeah, and that's why I try to be as open as possible, especially on Instagram with stories, because I try not like I barely showed my highlight reel. I probably should show more of it just to show that other side of my life. But I just need to
Mm,
get my phone out more. I'm horrible with just pulling my phone out, but something I'm working on to document my life more. But I like to document a lot of my moments where I'm like, cool, I feel like this, but I know I need to feel this other way, or I know I need to do this. I don't want to do it. I got to do this to make it feel like this. So I like showing the journey of how to actually get into a different mindset or get into a different frame of mind so you can actually feel the way you want to or do an activity that you need to do.
mm. And I'm curious, this, I know you talked a little bit into it. It was my next question. And it was like, what like triggered like your interest in mental health? Was it the drug? Was it something deeper as well? Was it some like deep when I mean, was it something before the drugs? Was it something that you saw, you're like, I need, this is my destiny. This is what I need to do.
Yeah, I think a build up of a lot of things, like growing up in Liverpool, England. I grew up in a really rough neighborhood, and just seeing the way life was over there compared when I moved to Australia. I was like, why is this? I didn't understand it. It was completely different. And growing up with my parents just constantly at each other's throat as well, I was like, I don't understand this either. But
Mm.
then once I started growing up and then became addicted to drugs at age 11, because that was my way to cope at that time. When I got sober at 18, I was majorly depressed, heavily suicidal, severe anxiety. I was just at the bottom of the bottom. And I had like three options at that time. It was rather kill myself, overdose, or try and find a way out. And luckily, I chose try and find a way out. And once I chose that decision, I then was like, cool, I need to find a bigger purpose in my life, something that I can achieve, that I know I can achieve, that's not going to be too big for me. And that was completing year 12 at TAFE because I got expelled from school when I was like 15. So I went back to TAFE to the year 12, and I was like, everyone told me that I was never going to finish school. I was like, this is something I can be proud of. And then when I enrolled in TAFE, he had a couple of subjects for me to choose from, and one of them was psychology. I thought, oh, that seems cool. I'll check that out. I'm feeling depressed and anxious at the moment. Like maybe I can learn something. And then once I stepped into that classroom and I started implementing things for myself, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like you can actually understand the mind and you can actually get this information, implement it, and get the results you want. And from that day on, it just spiraled into what it is now.
Mm. That's so exciting. And, you know, talking about the balance of it, like you've got so much going on, your relationship with your phone, you know, putting your content out and showing up. It's just like, where do you find the balance in the boundaries with your working 9 to 5? You've got coaching, launching courses and masterclasses and all this, which is absolutely amazing. But like, there's a fear of, and this is my stuff, what I'm bringing up as well. Like, there's a fear of like when people say they don't have enough time, it's not enough priority. So, what wisdom could you say to people if they're glued to their phone? Because I know when I bring things up, it's just like everyone's like, "Do you have someone posting?" I'm like, "No, I just post a lot." It's like there's got to be a balance of like secrecy, and there's also to show the world of like the good things and the bad things. So I'm wondering, how does that look like for you in your life? Do you feel
Mm.
like you need to post more? Do you like, what's your relationship with social media with running multiple jobs and businesses?
For me, I need to be on my phone more because I'm not on it enough in terms of promoting what I do, promoting the information I have, the value that I have. But in moments I do get on it, I do have some times where I just jump on and scroll. Like I'll be like, oh, let's check out some motivation, some ideas, and then excuse me at the butt. But I was like, yeah, motivation ideas, but you just get lost in the rabbit hole. So I think the first thing is awareness to what you're doing, and then actually being able to call yourself out on it too, because that's the hard part. It's easy to be like, yeah, I'm doing it. It's hard to be like, look, fucking stop. So I think it is, it's awareness and then implementing the things like, look, I do need to take a break if I'm not utilizing it as a source of information, because there's a lot of good information on there, especially if you're learning about whatever your skills are or a deep interest that will benefit you. It's good in that sense, as long as it is bringing some sort of fulfillment in a life that's going to grow into something. If you're using it as a sense just to pass time by, you're literally going to burn out your dopamine, and then you're going to feel more depressed and flat in other areas of your life because you can't get the same dopamine hit that your phone's giving you. So it's very important to become aware of why you're using social media, and then implement what I said before, like separate the two of the useful information and just the nonsense scrolling, because that nonsense scrolling will literally just burn out your dopamine, and then you'll start feeling flat in other areas of your life, and that will start to leak.
Mm, yeah, no, that's so good. It's so good. And the next thing is relation to why you're on social media. So we know a little bit about you. So what is your big vision? So there's a lot of things we talked about earlier. What is your big vision with, and what can you offer? What do you do? Like specialize in?
Yeah. So what what do I want to do? I want to be around the world, especially back in England, Liverpool. I'd love to set up a community down there, set up resources, and just offer as much back to where I'm from, but also implement that worldwide as well. Just as
Mm,
much mental health awareness around resources. It doesn't even have to be my own particular resources, what I can offer, or just the whole community aspect, like I was speaking on earlier. Just like, let's just say I go to Oklahoma in America, then bring a base there where it's just a massive resource center where people can actually support anything that you're going through. That's a big part of something that I want to do. But also, I offer like courses, like 3-month, 12-week courses. I do master classes. I run like mastermind events. I run like retreat events as well. I got my own podcast. So yeah, I offer a lot around mental health and mindset. But the vision where I want to go is because at the moment in Australia specifically, like the suicide ideation rate is 2.5 million minimum a year. So a big goal of mine is to decrease that as well and decrease the numbers where it gets into the final stages of suicide and just try and make as big as impact as possible because I am huge on mindset as well, but mental health for me that hits home at a different level, you know, like with planning suicide and getting to the deep depths of those depression episodes and things like that. So anyone who's feeling suicidal, I want to make that big impact, and especially on areas around the world that are deeply impacted by that.
I can feel that, and I appreciate the work that you do, brother, and it's very close to my heart. And you know, that's why we're connected, and this is why the conversations. This is what I truly do miss. Like, abundance is sharing someone's story and uploading on Instagram. People go, "You can't do this, you can't do that." It's like, who told you?
Yeah.
My favorite story is like, I don't know if it started, but Kerwin Ray did a video. I'm sure it wasn't just him, but he said, like, there's a pork thing, and said, "Why do you cut the pork off to the side?" And then, because my grandma did it, my second cousin did it, right. The moral of the story is they had a smaller oven back then. That's why they cut it off.
Yeah.
But now they got big ovens now. So why are we listening to someone 80 years ago around something that is definitely not still relevant? So why are we listening to support from doctors 90 years ago? So
yeah,
it's something that's so important. And what I hear is like the vision of that is just so exciting to have a community of, like, there's so many people around the world talking about mental health, and it's just getting out of the ego and getting out of the way, which I know we both laugh about it because it's men have ego. It can be good, it can be safe, but also some things it's like, oh, like, what was that about?
yeah.
You know, like, do I do this next question? Like, this is right now. Like, can he hear me? Am I better internet? Like all these little subconscious things. And I'm like, have I let him talk more? Like, it's this, men, we are so wired to fix things. And then if things are not right, we've got to make sure everything's fucking perfect. So like, this is your permission, everybody, to, if you have someone that you look up to, inspire, all you do is just inbox them, organize a time. Voila, I'm talking to Ryan. It can be that simple.
And the thing is too, like, I'm not perfect. I know me implementing all these strategies may seem like I'm perfect, but don't put me on a pedestal. I'm just a guy who's implementing the things to try and make myself happy every day. And I show up for myself every day, and that's the main thing that I do. So I think don't put anyone on a pedestal. Like when I first got on this video with you, the first thing I asked you is like, is my lighting good? Like, trying to fix things, trying to be perfect. So I do have moments where I get caught in like a moment of like frustration. Like I call myself out like an hour later. Like, oh shit, I gotta get out of it. So like, don't put me or anyone on the pedestal. Just speak to people, learn information, and just try to become the best version of yourself every day.
And you can offer me something, I can offer you something. It's just the world of like, and I actually just got off a call with a client. He's like, if I'll give you $1 million if you can see a coach that's got it all together.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm never going to give you that coach. And it's like, there's a lot of coaches out there. It's very saturated, but there's nobody like us that actually is genuine and real. And that's just my perception. If people can continue to have that abundance, and what I talk about abundance is Ryan giving these examples, was like Ryan just put it on, like record that. He's like, hey, I need to have this, I need to have that. It's just like, this is not Ryan, it's just our thoughts. And if people struggling with mental health, it's like, it's no one, like if someone's got crutches, right, and you can see that they're injured, but you wouldn't know that I'm experiencing this, and this, so I didn't tell you. So that's why mental health is quite, you got to have those questions, and then that's when mental health can come into fruition, going, hey, I'm actually needing support right now.
Yeah, exactly. And you get support from people that are implementing the things already that you're looking for. Like for me, I was always trying to find how to meditate from people that didn't meditate. I was like, I don't know why this isn't working. And then I went to a Cool to Be Conscious treat like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, whenever they first started.
Great, guys.
I learned from the people who practice this daily, and I was like, oh well, like this is how you actually step into this realm. And yes, I think it's important to learn from people and listen to people that are actually embodying the things that you want or the feelings that you want to feel as well.
Oh, that landed real deep. So talking about all these like things that we're talking about, your like strategies and things. I'd love to know, what is your morning routine, evening routine, and how important it is to do the routine for you. So I'd love for you to chat about that. The reason why I said for you is because I've seen it on socials, I've seen it in past clients, is that they go, cool, John's done breath work for 15 minutes, I'm going to do breath work. You might have asthma, or you might have trauma that you haven't resolved. So it's really important to do things that you actually can do, and then get professional help, just like what you said before. Go to events that are people that have been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, I love that you touched on that. It's all about preference. You got to do what you prefer to do. Otherwise, you won't stick to doing the things that you know you should be doing. So it's important to actually implement things that you enjoy. Because I used to do that too when I first got into the whole morning night routine. I started implementing other people's strategies. I was like, I was just getting pissed off for doing it. I wasn't even getting the actual feeling that you meant to get from it. I was just more pissed off. I'm like, what's the point of this? But then once once I trialed and errored a few things, and I found my now morning routine, which is as soon as I wake up, the first non-negotiable is making my bed. Like before I even go to the toilet, as soon as my legs hit that floor, my bed's getting made. As soon as that's done, everything else flows. So making the bed is key number one. Drinking probably like 700 mils of water roughly. I'm just trying to think how big my bottle of water is. But at least a glass of water. Get a glass of water into you. And I do a bit of breath. I don't do deep breath. I just do 4-6-9 breathing. And I do about 4 to 6 rounds of 4-6-9 breathing every morning. And that's quite literally my morning routine. It's just mainly those three things. It's making the bed, water, and then doing the breath work. And then I'm out the door. Like all those three things take about less than 3 minutes. So it's just an easy way to get success and achievement in the mornings, but also wire me, prepare me for the day. But I guess you could say another part of my morning routine is listening to audio books. And the reason why I say audio books, because I'm driving to work, it's like an hour away. The reason I do this is because in the morning, I'm still in that theta brainwave state. And when you're in that theta brainwave state, you're going to attain knowledge at a higher rate, because the theta brainwave state is a state that we're in from the day we're born to the age of 7. And that's where a lot of our core values and beliefs come from. But we're still in these states every morning and every night. So the information that you attain in morning and night is going to attach to you on a deeper level. And you're actually going to remember it and embody it on a deeper level. So I make sure that in the mornings and at nighttime, I am implementing information and knowledge that I want to embody or I want to teach, so I can remember it to rather give back to people or to give back to myself.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you said the 3 minutes. I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs and people that I look up to, and talking about pedestal, I just did a recent post about that. It's really funny. I'll share that with you later after this. Because there's no room for someone. So if you're looking up to Ryan, he's got an incredible podcast, he's got an incredible business, like his mindset's fantastic, but it's like he's also a human being, because if there's no room to grow when you're on a pedestal. And it's like Ryan's here in the pedestal and you're looking up to him, you're at the pit, you literally can't go anywhere. So that's a really good thing to acknowledge as well. And the morning routine, you got all these books, you've got that Navy SEAL going, make your bed, and you've got all these breath works, and then you've got oils, and you've got cacao. There's a lot out there. And I guess what I loved, what you explained, is like 3 minutes. And I, hand on heart, sometimes I skip breakfast. I choose to skip breakfast. It's a choice, right? I catch myself in it. I don't get to sleep, and I'm like, I don't do this. And it's so important, because I wake up and I drive to work and I take it out on the clients, or I take it out of myself. And then I'm like, oh, wow, like I'm not congruent here. So I'd love to know, like, what integrity and congruency means to you, and what type of things that you do when you catch yourself not being congruent with integrity. So for an example, like you say you want to go to the gym 3 days a week and you don't, like there's the shadow, and I do a lot of shadow work the last 6 months with the men's group that I attend. So what happens to you in your life when um, you're not incongruent and integrity? Like, how do you get yourself back in with the mindset
Um,
work that you've done?
to be honest, I'm quite harsh myself. So
Okay.
if I don't get something done, like like right now, if I told myself all day I haven't gone for a run, it'll be midnight. I'll go for a run. Like I have to do it, otherwise I'll stew on it. They'll build onto me. But if there is moments where I don't like integrally do it, like sometimes I actually haven't just not gone to the gym. A lot of the time it's just acceptance and being like, cool, I've got to accept what's happened because it's already been and just do what I can do from now on and just implement that because I try not to stew too much on what's happened. So let's just say an example. I was going to say I was going to go to the gym today. I wake up tomorrow and I haven't gone. I just have to accept that I didn't go. That's the
Mm,
main thing. I'm not going to let it drag tomorrow's energy because today or the day before I lacked. So I'm not going to let yesterday's energy leak into the next day, especially if it's
mm,
negative. And another big thing, especially as shadow work, because this is something I implement and this helps with the acceptance and understanding of why, is a book called The Gene Keys. The Gene Keys is a book and it talks a lot
mm.
about like every shadow has a gift and how you
Oh
can
yeah.
implement your shadows into gifts. And that book, I implement this book every night. So every single time I felt even the good emotion, the bad emotions, like a big list of like 80 different words, probably more than 80, like over 100 words. And just find the word that resonated with you that day. There's either a gift or a shadow or a city. And you go to that chapter and you read the whole chapter, and it just has like a whole transformational thing about the shadow, the gift, and the city of that whole thing. And it just speaks to you on a deeper level. But if I've, so I'm going on a tangent here, but if I catch
No,
myself out not
I love them. Love them.
if,
Keep going.
if I catch myself out not being like not having integrity or not embodying what I'm saying, I think I first of all I have to just accept it, become a piece of it, and then implement it from now going forward. But
Mm,
like I said before, I am quite harsh on myself. That's a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because harsh on myself,
absolutely.
like yeah, I'll go and do the run, but then also like I'm losing out on sleep. So so it's like it's a balance. But now I am getting a bit better where I won't be that extreme with it. But I am quite harsh on myself just because I know what I should be doing, what I shouldn't be doing. I know how much something will affect me if I don't stick to what I've been telling myself I need to do. Because like I feel like if I'm giving someone advice, I've got to embody that too. Because what's the
Mm,
point of me telling someone to embody something if I can't even embody it myself?
yeah. And that's the congruency and integrity piece, right?
Mm.
No, that's huge. Um, that's all my questions I have. I always like to leave my guests with what they obviously where they can find you, what you're doing. But I'm just curious if there's anything else on your mind that we haven't touched or you'd like to share before we leave tonight.
Yeah, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is you don't have to be perfect to start. You have to start so you can become perfect. And the reason I say this, like, go to my podcast, listen to the first episode of my podcast, and you'll hear like a million voices in the background. That's because I put a microphone down in the middle of a library. And this is the library in South Bank, Brisbane, too. So it's busy as, and I'm trying to talk to a microphone for 2 hours with like a million people running around. and,
I love it.
it's shocking. So, like, up to the first 4 episodes were like that. But I had to start it. I was like, it's not perfect now, but it'll get to a position where it's going to become amazing. So
Mm,
just start no matter where you are. Like even if it's like you're dealing with anxiety and you're like, oh, I'm not a master of breath work, so I can't control my nerves. I can't control how I react to these situations. You don't have to be the perfect breath work at the start. Just begin with just controlling your breath and focusing on it. You don't have
mm,
to even do any second holds. You don't have to do any inhale holds. Just focus on your breath and then slowly build into it, and you will find yourself a master of breath and implement that with everything in life. Like the day I walked into the gym, I was about 60 kilos. Yeah, about 60 kilos. And I couldn't even bench just a stick, like the stretching stick. And then
mm.
about 5 years later, I got to about 110 kilos, benching 170 kilos. And like just by taking that first step, and the first 2 years, I didn't gain any weight. I was still around 60 to 65 and I was struggling. Then after 2 years, I just had a big shoot in the weight I gained. And no, I didn't take any steroids or anything. If anyone's wondering, I just stayed consistent over a period of time and just putting that work ethic into my life so I can get the results. And it's just don't think you have to be perfect to start anything in life. Just start and you'll find your way through it.
And like language is like incredible. Like I was just catching myself in this as well. Like with people on Instagram, they look at people's following, they look at people's content, and they might look at you. That I've had people look at me and say, "You need a website, you need a podcast," and I haven't got a podcast. I just got a YouTube channel, and that's beautiful. And I get people that I care about and think that would impact my community, and then put them on my GTV, and it's like I've got like $20 headphones. I've got the computer screen, as you guys can see, away from my messy door that I've got to fix. And it's like, just do it ugly. Like, do it ugly, because Ryan's message today is going to impact thousands and millions. And it's like, to hold space for that, it's like, I actually love sharing people's stories as much as I love speaking. That's my work. I need to listen more and actively listen, because you have no idea what someone can offer you if you just, like, we talk about ego. It's like, that's such a big topic, right? It's like you let that guard down. It's like, what can Ryan teach me right now? Or like we talk about drug addiction, anxiety, depression. It's like, what does he know? It's like, he knows a lot because he's been through it. Yes, he's got qualifications to call himself what he wants to call himself. It's like, it comes down to the point of like, it's a decision, it's a choice, and it's just doing it now. And like, I love that example of South Bank of the podcast. I've done similar things, and it's just like, you look at that, and then you sell out events, and then you look at and you go, I needed to do that to get to this stage.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole thing as well, like with purpose as well. Like you don't need to have this massive thing of purpose in your life to live a fulfilled life. Like purpose for me is like a feeling that I have. So purpose is like love, connection, service of others. It's not a thing that I can attain. It's something that I feel within. But my mission in life is things I can attain and impacts that I can make. But every mission I go on in life will always fulfill my purpose, because no matter, even if it's about mental health or even cooking meals or whether it's working in retail, I'm still serving other people. I'm still feeling love. So my purpose is always intact with my mission, no matter what my mission is in life. So I think it's important to simplify purpose as well. I think that's important for people, because people can think like purpose is mental health, purpose is getting this or doing this for my family, but the purpose is the feeling it gives you inside of you. But your mission is going to align with that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like that we talk about, we get these qualifications and these courses, and then so many people like to the next step, to the next step, to the next step. And like, if you just embody it, and like what you said before, like you're embodying discipline, you're embodying your morning routine, so that when clients come to you, you can go, this is what I've done, but what would you like? So it's what I'm thinking is like the pedestal thing, the ego thing, all these like social media putting your highlight reels on. There's like, I've seen what you post, and it's incredible, and the stories, and it's like, when you show that layer of like vulnerability, it's a permission piece as well for men to go, hey, I can do this too. And it's like, that abundance is sharing people's story, and you have no idea what men or women could need that information at that exact time. And I know a conversation can change a life. I've done it many times. I'm sure you have as well. So it's just it's just life, right? You have no idea what someone's going through. You just have that conversation.
100%. And that's why stories are so powerful. Like I said, I become sober off drugs. It was Curse's music that got me through it, because he was telling the story every song. That's what helped me and motivated me to keep going. So yeah, it's very powerful to listen to stories, share stories, and just be able to bond in that level.
I'm just gutted we couldn't do this face to face, but virtually the connection has been amazing. And how you've just shared like your truth here tonight, it's been amazing to witness, and I'm so excited to share this on my socials. And I'd love for people to know like how they can find you, and the dates of these courses, because I think what you talk about, we've spoke about, I think a lot of people are going to get value from it.
So you can find me everywhere, like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Mental Health Experience. And then you got my podcast. It's called One Talk Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, all those three. I've also got a football podcast, or soccer for Australians. So
You
That's
say
great.
football, it's okay.
Football. So I've got a football podcast with me and three of my mates as well, called the Dugout Podcast. That's a really fun podcast as well. So that's mainly where you can find me in all those, but mainly mental health experience on Instagram is the main thing I'm on. And also I've got a masterclass coming up called Success Without Stress. And the point of this is to maximize peak performance while eliminating burnout. Because I truly believe you can actually perform at a peak level in all areas of your life. So people think peak performance is athletes and hustlers. No, peak performance is all of us people. We have jobs, we have businesses, we can rather have kids, we have relationships, we have friends, we have family. We have to pay bills, we got to do this. There's so many things we're trying to perform in our lives in so many areas. And we wonder why we're feeling stressed and feeling angry and depressed. Like we're not implementing the things so we can keep the balance we're talking about earlier. All these things we're trying to juggle in life. So I do believe there is a way you can eliminate burnout while performing all these areas of your life. It's just, yeah, I'll teach you in the masterclass, don't worry.
Love that.
6th of November, yeah, before I go on another tangent. But go to my Instagram and I'll, if you've got more questions, because I know you probably want more info about it, just hit me up. I'll give you as much info as you want, talk to you about it all. Not even just about the masterclass, like if you're having a rough day and you just need some advice or anything, give me a message because I'll always reply to anyone.
And that's integrity and that's congruency, and that's what I love about having you on, mate. It's not like, hey, book a call with me and we'll talk further. Like it's just that abundance of like, hey, obviously there's boundaries and respect. Obviously, if people need more support, you do that and you offer them a coaching spot. But like, if someone someone asks for support and then they just get pushed away, as we both know, that trauma and that abandonment, it can lead to others. So congruency and integrity is what people have come about. And Ryan, you're still integrating, you're still embodying until you die, man. And I'm the same. And I think if people think they are fully integrated, embodying everything, it's just they're lying to themselves. It's catching themselves in it and then knowing that they are always still learning and a forever
100%.
student. So that's my stuff. People might disagree, and that's okay. I can love them in that. But yeah, what you've said tonight is really it's made me think of different things, and that's what I love about learning is you can have values and beliefs, but if you continue to have the same values and beliefs, we would not be in the world where it is right now if we did.
That's why I can't wait for our podcast together either, brother, because it's going to be epic having you on the one talk and having a chat and deep dive into your story and your knowledge as well, because I love listening and I love just hearing people's stories. It's so empowering, so powerful, and also knowledge as well, because you're going to know a lot. So I'm keen to have a chat with you too, brother, and your side.
Likewise, man, and thank you for sharing your truth. And yeah, looking forward to more collaborations. And if anyone that wants to reach out to Ryan, found out, I'll put it all in the YouTube links. But I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for sharing your truth, and I'm excited to see the more connections and the more growth. And just yeah, I'm just so proud to see your past, but I'm also so excited to see your present and your future.
What you see in me, I see in you, brother. So thank you.
Absolutely. I love that. Love that, Mira. Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure. And if you need to reach out to either of us, we are here. And just remember, you are not your thoughts. You're not alone. We are here when you need it.